Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 7th August 2023. My name is TSV Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Haribol TRSV Nectar. The complete name is Hardan HARDAN Haribol TRSV Nectar. In this particular vlog, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to my vlog and this video and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous videos. So let us continue with the topic for today's discussion in this video. Yesterday we discussed about how the material world envelops a spirit soul that tries to get in touch with it by enveloping that particular spirit soul with four layers of material body, namely causal body of intelligence, astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions, etheric body of five senses, namely sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and the fourth gross body, which is the one that identifies a living entity in this material world. We also know that to provide such layers of material body, this material world uses five elements, namely ether, air, fire, water, and earth. We know that while ether is used for the three subtle bodies that were the first three layers of the material body, the gross body or the fourth layer is made up of four elements, namely air, fire, water, and earth. Yesterday we discussed in detail about the first element, that is air. Today we shall talk about the second element, that is fire. Just like air comes out of the first element, in the body, that is ether. Similarly, fire, the second element in the gross body, comes out of air, the first element in the gross body. We have already discussed about this first element air in my previous video. Today we shall discuss about the second element called fire. We know by now that every living entity is a miniature form of the material world, in the sense that just like this material world is made up mainly of five elements, namely ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Similarly, every living entity, whether or not human, is also made up of ether, air, fire, water, and earth. It is another matter that there are several subtle ingredients like ego, illusion, etc., which also contribute to the making of the living entity. These things do not form a part of the gross material world as such. Now, we will talk about fire. Air, as we have already known, can be felt but cannot be seen by the naked eye. On the other hand, fire can be seen by the naked eye and also felt by the person in the material world, but the same fire, when it becomes a part of the gross body of the same living entity, it cannot be seen but can only be felt, just like air. This fire in the gross body of the of the human living entity is of a latent and subtle nature, in the sense that it is very much present in the body but cannot be seen through the naked eye. This fire mainly applies or is applied to digesting the food and water ingested into the gross body from the material world. That is, whatever is ingested into the gross body of a living entity as food, whether vegetarian or non vegetarian, herbivorous or carnivorous, is digested by the same gross body thanks to the fire present inside the gross body. This fire is actually inside the belly or stomach of a living entity. But this fire, which is very, very powerful as an acid and so is used to digest the food, is protected from the other part of the gross body through a thick, greasy membrane that surrounds this stomach and keeps this acid of fire inside the stomach like a vessel keeping some liquid inside it. If it does not do so, if this membrane gets ruptured for some reason, the same fire and acid will start digesting the rest of the gross body. That is the reason why it is kept inside a cauldron of a greasy, thick membrane around the stomach of the living entity. There is a saying in English, fire in the belly. Actually, it is an indirect mention of this very fire in the gross body of a living entity. Fire in the belly literally means active energy, adrenaline, and testosterone of a living entity. This shows that this fire provides that active energy and the adrenaline and testosterone used or required to achieve something material and somewhat spiritual in this world. Businessmen, entrepreneurs, tycoons, magnates, creators, musicians, writers, painters, etc., have that adrenaline inside their belly which makes them energetic enough to achieve their material purpose. This fire is not only inside the belly of the living entity when he or she is born, it also remains till this very living entity is ending his or her life or when he or she dies. The quantity of fire may or may not be the same when the person is born and when he or she passes on. As the person grows older from infancy, this fire inside the belly begins increasing gradually, slowly, and steadily. It reaches a particular level where this particular fire reaches its optimum quantity in the body of that living entity. It remains so for some time till this very living entity begins to slide down the path from middle age to old age. Just like it was very little in infancy, in the same way, the same fire begins to erode or reduce as a person grows in his or her age. It depends on the individual living entity when this process happens in his or her life. For some, it may be early in life, in others, it may be later. But all this depends on that person's capacity and destiny of life in that particular lifetime. This fire is replenished by the food and drinks ingested by that particular living entity in that particular lifetime. It is not necessary that the same quantity remains inside the fire inside the belly when the person was born. It is also because of the type of food ingested by that person that the fire in the belly keeps increasing. Fatty foods, sugar, spice, chili, very spicy food, etc. When a person is habitual of ingesting within his or her gross body, then it increases the fire in the belly of that particular person. However, this is not necessarily a positive sign. One person may ingest these spicy foods once or twice in a period of, say, a week. But if he or she gets addicted to such food, then the fire in the belly begins to make a hole in the membrane that has till now protected the stomach, and it enters the body and begins to digest the ingredients of that gross body. This results in various medical ailments like cancer, ulcer, etc. Hence, one must make sure that he or she keeps only that much fire in the belly as it is used to provide the required energy to carry on with his or her lifetime and to digest the ingested food and drink within the body. The third element is called water. Water comes out of fire, the second element, just like fire came out of air. This water is 75% in this gross body. In other words, 75% of this gross body is in a liquid form, that is water. Even fire is mixed with water to provide the required acid to digest the ingested food. This water, which runs through the gross body, comes in various forms. It comes in various forms because it gets mixed with various ingredients inside the body. This water mixes up with hemoglobin, red blood corpuscles, white blood corpuscles, etc., to make the blood that is required to infuse life inside the body of a living entity. Similarly, it sometimes becomes urine, sometimes perspiration, sweat, and other forms that are a part of this living entity's gross body. Water is a very important ingredient in this gross body, just like air and breath are important to make it survive. Fire is there only to digest food, whereas the first element, air, and the third element, water, are important for the very survival of that gross body. When either of them are reduced, the risk of this particular living entity ending its life increases manifold, unlike in the case of fire. The air mixes with fire because fire has been given birth to by this air. Similarly, water also mixes with fire in the sense that when this fire comes out or gets out of control, this very water is used to extinguish it. Actually, air increases the power of fire, whereas water extinguishes the power of fire. As they say, air is used to kindle and give more energy and speed to this fire, which happens even in this material world. When air blows, sometimes the fire and the heat glows wherever it is. Whereas when water is thrown on that fire or poured into that fire, the fire begins to extinguish for the comfort of the gross body or this material world. The fourth element is called earth. First, air, which circulates inside the body. Second, fire, which is stored in the stomach to digest the food and to transport this digested and nutrition derived out of such food and drink into the gross body's veins, nerves, bones, etc. through blood, which is water, and the fourth is earth. Besides these three elements, the fourth element, earth, is giving a shape to this gross body through its complexion, bones, flesh, muscles, tendons tendons, and other such things, fat, etc., which are quite visible, just like water, which is visible as well as felt inside the gross body of that living entity. The third element, water, and the fourth element, earth, can be seen as well as felt inside the gross body of a living entity. Whereas this water is mostly inside the body, this earth is visible even from outside in the form of skin and sense organs, namely two eyes, two ears, nostril, tongue, mouth, skin, etc. This earth is very important in the sense that it gives an identity to a living entity in this society or in this material world. A material In this material world, a living entity is identified by the outer shell of the gross body, and this outer shell is made up of earth. So now we realize how this gross body of a living entity is made up of. It is made up of four elements that have directly or indirectly been derived out of the first element, namely ether, which actually makes up the three subtle bodies of causal intelligence, astral mind, and etheric senses. The fourth gross body is made up of the other four elements. Vibrations from the three subtle bodies that come out perpetually right from the time when this living entity was born and end when this person passes on are transmitted into a mass of tissue made up of earth, which takes these vibrations, chews and masticates on them according to the whims, fantasies, human involvement, taste, preferences, karma, destiny, experience, and maturity of that living entity, extracts a particular juice and percolates down this gross body for that particular living entity to react in a particular manner. This goes on and on throughout the lifetime of that living entity, right from the moment he or she was born and ending at when the same living entity reaches his or her end moment in the lifetime. This is one particular information or theory or fact that one should remember while carrying out with his or her life in a lifetime. All this exercise is needed only to make this human living entity more evolved birth after birth, death after death. As this human being gets more and more evolved, the very brain tissue of that living entity begins taking vibrations from his or her astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions, and causal body of logic, and thus this person improves in his or her material life. A person, when he is a commoner, listens more to the vibrations of the etheric senses, and this happens to 75% of humanity of any particular time. The more this person gets evolved, 20% of humanity begins listening to the logical body, the, the body of astral mind and feelings and emotions. And the more that person gets evolved, he or she begins to listen more to the causal body of intelligence, logic, and common sense. Monks, saints, rishis, maharishis, intellectuals, philosophers, scientists, researchers, etc. listen more to the causal body of logic, causal body of intelligence and logic, while creative people, dynamic and passionate people, enterprising dynamic persons listen more to the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions, while the normal human beings listen only to the etheric body of senses. This is one particular observation that I have done through my contemplation on this material world and material life of a living entity. The ultimate aim for every living entity and the spirit soul thereof is to get evolved enough to come out of this material world, become spiritual, get self realized, liberated from this repeated chain of birth and death, and finally get delivered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is all I want to say in this particular video today. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular subject. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, and ideas, plus views, so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan.